The cooled autumn breeze flowed in from the window like a wave of refreshing salvation. The breeze from the window her husband had left open for her reminded her why she loved fall, a season not of death, but of preparation. Preparation for the inevitable rebirth in the year to come. It was fall when her husband left for war, and fall when she saw him again, the worst and best days of her long life. She wished she would be so lucky as to be reborn into a new life when her time was up. Reborn to see him once more, to bother him with senseless pleasantries, to sit by the fire with one for another winter, and to help him through his struggles. Yet she knew her time to do such things was at an end. Each rattling breath she took for more laboured, more of a struggle. But she hung on to whatever sense of self she had remaining for him, in a vain hope to say some fragment of the things she wished to convey to her dearly beloved husband. She was thankful to see her husband, the man who had given up so much for his country and for her. The man that declared he would return from making the world a safer place for her, and the man who had kept that promise. She remembered the headstrong youth that embodied everything she had fallen in love with, the boy who went to war and returned in a condition so fragile that she had barely recognized him. She didn't resent the time he needed her aid to put himself back together, to find himself after the traumas she couldn't imagine, the names he tearfully spoke in his sleep, names without faces, names whose stories she would have liked for him to tell her. She remembered the little boy who had no toys to play with, and the sadness in her husband's eyes. He didn't need much motivation to make the lonely child a toy to play with, and after that he had made the hobby into a business that kept them afloat. She always admired his innovation, and seeing him become excited over a new idea always brought a warmth to her heart. She recollected the nights her partner had thought she was asleep, but in reality she watched him in his workshop from the cracked door, the look of focus weighing upon his furrowed brow. She wondered what sorts of toys he would have made for their children, if they had any. She held no animosity for the children left in hypotheticals. It's true, in her younger years she wanted them, and she had always had a fondness for them. However, she had made her peace on the subject. Even with her diminished sight, she could see her husband trying to withhold his tears, heard the heavy breathing of him trying to retain composure as she told her a story she couldn't place, but it was one she remembered hearing a number of times. She had always loved falling asleep to her husband's stories. She mused about the tales he spun when they were younger, fantastical falsehoods that bordered on fairy tales to keep her interest, feats of prowess and skill no teenager possessed, yet she was always engrossed. Tears came to her eyes as she remembered when he had first said those 3 words, the words that bound her heart and soul for all these years, the words rarely spoken between them, barely spoken because it didn't need saying. Despite the words being so self-evident, she couldn't help but selfishly want to hear them one last time.
I love you.
The words set her heart aflame, just as it had the first time in their teenage years, and just as it had each time since. She cherished the earnest statement, cherished the hint of embarrassment it usually held, but was happy it was absent this time. She wished she could reciprocate the words with confirmation of her reciprocation, yet the ability of speech and sight eluded her, and in fact, he seemed so dreadfully far away, even with his hand gently holding hers. She had lived an imperfect life, one where she had to live without certain things, but one where she was blessed enough to have all the things she needed. A flawed life that she wouldn't have traded 1 second of for a life of children and riches. Somewhere far into the distance, she could hear the meowing of cats. She knew her babies would be taken care of, because despite his hard demeanour, she knew she had married a man with a heart full of love to give, and knew he would need it in return to overcome her passing. Once more she wished she could be there for him in what was to come, to help him as she once had. Yet the blackness that now surrounded her was one that she knew she wouldn't be able to pull herself from. As the darkness turned to light, she heard it once more, meowing.
To hear more, visit The Pale Horseman Reads. I hope to see you there.